Coronavirus, dispelling the myths. So coronavirus and COVID-19, there are so many myths out there. There is so much fake news. I've been sent some ridiculous things that some people are believing. So what I'm trying to do today, and I've got notes today because I want to make sure I get this absolutely right, is to go through 11 of the most common myths that are out there, the most widely circulating myths, and referring to trusted sources, NHS England, WHO, the BBC, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I'm going to try and address each one in turn and explain why this can't be true. And then just focus in on what is true and what we do know, so that hopefully some of the fake news out there, which is incredibly plausible, some of it, we can actually move forward in a sensible manner. So first of all, number one myth is that coronavirus only affects older people and that younger people are immune. This is not the case. Today there was a report that a 12-year-old girl has died. What is true is that older people and those with pre-existing health conditions tend to have far more serious form of it, and they can end up with pneumonia that means that they are likely or may well need to be ventilated or at least require CPAP. So younger people are not immune, although it is true to say that generally they end up having a much milder version. There are exceptions, but generally they have a milder version. Now, the milder version can be so mild that they think that for some people, just having a change in their sense of smell or their sense of taste could be an indicator that they have been infected with the virus. So the virus is the coronavirus and the illness is COVID-19. So for some people, and they're investigating that now, and I've got a link to on my site to the formal paper about this that backs this up, is that for some people just that sense of change in taste or smell could mean that they have been infected with the virus and consequently could be infectious to other people. So if you have that change in taste or smell, you should be isolating yourself away from any vulnerable groups. We're all social distancing anyway, but you should just take an extra measure because it might be that at that point you are infectious although you feel completely well. So it seems to be a very strange virus that affects different people in different ways. There is also a suggestion that the amount of exposure that you have to the virus could affect the severity of the condition. Hence, some apparently young and healthy doctors and medical staff have had very serious forms of the illness, but they are still investigating to see if that is the case. Okay, so myth number 2. Hot and humid weather or very cold temperatures can kill the virus. No, there is no evidence to say that that is the case. Certainly initially we were hoping that the virus, like the flu virus, which isn't as active in our summer period, might be killed or be less active. We don't know yet. In Singapore, they seem to be able to control it more, but that might be because of the testing and the measures that they're doing. There is no direct evidence to suggest that this virus has that doesn't like hot, humid weather and that we will be safer in the summer, although we are all hoping that that might be the case. In terms of cold, again, there is no evidence that the virus can be killed by cold. So putting something in the freezer, as far as we know, when it warms back up to room temperature, it is likely to still or potentially could still be infected. We don't know. It's not something to rely on. So if you have made something when you have been ill, if you've cooked something and you've put it in the freezer, it should be thrown away. And if you are ill, you should not be cooking for any other people in terms of supporting the church groups and the vulnerable people, please don't do that, because if you are ill, the chances are that you could infect other people. And the whole point of this social distancing is to avoid that happening. Okay, so food packaging. Can we get coronavirus from food packaging? Again, we don't know for certain. The NHS website says categorically it is, or as categorically as they can be, it's very unlikely it can be spread through things like packages or food. However, we wipe ours because the other evidence that is out there from the WHO and from some studies that are being done in America at the moment is that they think the virus can survive on cardboard for up to about 4 hours. So if you've got the virus potentially living on cardboard, then let's be careful. So if we're bringing in our shopping before we bring it into the house, whilst we've still got some gloves on, we will wipe it down, and then we will dispose of gloves, or if we haven't had gloves, we will wash our hands really well and then bring the shopping in, because we don't want to take any chances, and I don't want you to either. So there is no evidence either way categorically, but there is a theoretical risk. Fresh fruit and vegetables should always be washed as normal before consuming. And think about it, if you're in a market environment or something like that where people are picking up apples and putting them back again and looking at them, then you don't know whether they have coronavirus on their hands or whether they are infected when they're doing that. So make sure you're washing your fruit and vegetables very carefully, and you're just taking those extra precautions. However, the biggest risk is still person-to-person transmission. And food deliveries to vulnerable people and elderly people should be left on their doorstep. And you might be able to help them to wipe them down before they get in, but just keep that social distancing. Please don't go in unless you absolutely have to unpack them and put them into their fridge for them. So another myth, hand dryers are effective at killing the coronavirus. It's certainly true that washing your hands is very effective, and it's important to dry your hands properly afterwards, because if your hands are still wet, then you haven't removed, or you may not have removed, the virus, and the virus quite likes that sort of environment. So make sure that you are drying your hands properly, and that will also prevent you having chapped hands. But the drying process does not remove the virus. It's the soap and the water and the 20 seconds of proper washing, making sure you're looking after and removing the virus from your hands properly. Another myth, the flu jab or pneumonia vaccinations will protect you. Afraid not. The flu jab is important to have, particularly if you're vulnerable, because there is still flu around. I know everyone is talking about coronavirus and COVID-19, but flu is still around, and flu kills people every year. So it is still important to protect yourself against flu, but the flu jab itself will not protect you from coronavirus. Likewise, any pneumococcal vaccines are really important for older people to have, but they protect against bacterial pneumonia, and this is a viral form of pneumonia. Now, that's not to say that if you end up being treated for coronavirus and are in hospital that you might not get given antibiotics, because sometimes the pneumonial infection can end up with a bacterial infection on top of the coronavirus, but they will be prescribing that sort of treatment for you based on the symptoms and what you are presenting with. So antibiotics do not work for viruses. Oh, and while I'm on this, antibacterial sprays will work against viruses because they're antibacteria and viral. They are not an antibiotic. So there's a lot of confusion again about that and about the terminology. So an antibacterial spray is a good thing to spray or wipe in order to clean the virus off any of these surfaces. And I'm going to do a separate Facebook Live probably next week about how long the virus can survive on different surfaces based on the American study, based on the WHO, based on the other reputable sources out there. Okay, so there are specific medications that can prevent or treat the virus. No, not yet, but there is hopeful signs. So one thing to mention here is if you need painkillers whilst you've got the virus, please make sure that you are avoiding ibuprofen. Again, it's not a 100% proven sort of link, but in France, they found that some of the younger patients that they were looking after, for some reason, the link with them having a more serious form of the disease seemed to be that they had taken ibuprofen. So they flagged it as a possible painkiller to avoid. They're not sure 100% why, but that is where the evidence comes from around that. So if you need a painkiller, avoid ibuprofen. Again, there's no link in terms of the ibuprofen gel if you have a sprain or a strain, but in terms of the systemic ibuprofen tablets, the advice is to avoid those and to take paracetamol instead if you can get hold of some. It's thought that some antimalarial drugs may be beneficial, and there's studies starting right now in London looking at whether these particular antimalarial drugs do actually work. So there's a double-blind study happening to find that out and to move forward quickly on that. There are some other possible treatments also being trialed and looked at, but nothing concrete at the moment. At the moment, we are probably about a year away from a vaccine, and the treatments are still being tried. But if I hear anything else, I will let you know as soon as I do. Another myth: eating garlic helps to prevent the coronavirus. No. Garlic's a healthy food, absolutely, and it may have some antimicrobial properties, but there is no link to it preventing you being infected with coronavirus. Another one that is coming that I've had from so many emails and so much social media is either regular rinsing your nose with saline to help prevent infection, which some people do, and it can help with a cold, but a coronavirus isn't a snotty disease. It's a respiratory disease. And the other one is keeping your mouth moist and drinking every 10 to 15 minutes to make sure that you are washing the virus down, because apparently it lives 3 to 4 days in the back of your throat and then it can get into your lungs. Well, you've got two systems. You've got the respiratory system and you've got the digestive system. So the two, although the very top of it is linked, there is no evidence that the virus can live at the top and the back of your throat in that way, or that it ends up forming these big clumps and somehow running down into your lungs. There is no biological reason why it would come from your gut into your lungs, because they are, other than from the top, they are two separate systems. So yes, it's a good idea to drink water regularly and to remain hydrated, but please don't be obsessive about it. And likewise, there is no need to rinse your mouth regularly with and gargling with antiseptic and lemon and vinegar and salt and all those things, again, that I've had sent through to me as possible preventative measures or cures. There is no evidence whatsoever that that is necessary or needed. So please eat sensibly, eat healthily, and remain hydrated. I've got something here on antibiotics. I think I've covered that recently, in the fact that antibiotics will not kill viruses. So you may end up with an antibiotic if there's a coexisting disease. There's other things that you should only focus on your hands. No, please keep, hands are really important. Hand washing is paramount, but make sure you are also cleaning door handles, lift handles, your phone. Make sure you are wiping your phone and it is clean. Supermarket trolleys, petrol pumps, the button you pressed across the road, letter boxes, anything like that is, is a potential sort of breeding ground, or a place, not necessarily a breeding ground, but a place where the virus can stay and live. Drinking lots of hot drinks, that's another one that is widely circulating. The idea that the virus hates hot things. So if you drink lots of hot drinks, as hot as you can manage, then you're going to kill that virus. Again, you're talking biological going down into your digestive tract. There is no evidence whatsoever that this is a sensible or good thing to do. And conversely, in the same emails that tend to come around about this, don't eat ice cream, don't have ice cubes in your drinks. Again, it's linked to that myth that somehow the virus, doesn't like hot and can be killed by cold. It's not true. So please, enjoy your ice cream and your ice cubes if that's what you want. Drink lots of drinks. Hot drinks are fine too, but avoid ones that contain caffeine, because caffeine can actually dehydrate you. So just if you're maintaining your hydration levels, and we want to keep as fit and healthy as we can, so that if we do get the virus, our body's immune systems are at their best to be able to fight it, and it gives us the best chance. So stay fit, stay healthy, stay active, keep good in your mind if you can when we're all enclosed in, but do things that make you happy as well, and get out for that bit of fresh air, but avoid that being more than 2 meters against anybody else that isn't part of your family group. So key tips: stay at home, wash your hands with soap for 20 seconds on a very regular basis, and certainly try and avoid touching your face. I'm going to write another article about how the coronavirus can enter via your eyes, because the mouth and nose is fairly obvious. We can see how that happens when it's a respiratory disease. However, I'm going to write an article because it's interesting how it gets in through your eyes too. So any of those will link down and can link down into your respiratory tract, and that's why you need to avoid touching your hands, avoid your hands or dirty hands touching your mouth and your nose and your eyes. If you always wash your hands if you've coughed or sneezed, and dispose of it in a tissue, and ideally flush it. If you know that you are ill, double bag it. It's safer to do it that way, or flush it. Please don't just put it in an open bin, because there is still a potential for infection if you do that. Clean surfaces thoroughly and regularly. Keep 2 meters apart from people. In your own home, don't share towels, and try and keep a little bit of separation if you possibly can. So keep your toothbrushes a little bit further apart than you would do normally, and just do some basic hygiene around that, and clean regularly. So, we don't know at what point one of us might end up being infected, and we need to make sure we've done our best not to infect the rest of our household too. I hope this has been useful. Please share it if it has. It's a longer Facebook Live than I would normally do. And stay safe and stay well. And join our Stay Safe community Facebook group, because we're going to do regular ones of these. I'm here to answer questions. Most of my team and my friends are working frontline, and I'm so proud and so supportive of them, and they are giving me really important information that they want me to pass on for you. So it's coming straight from the front line, information that to share with you on a regular basis. So I'm here to help. Please link in and come and join our community. Ask what you want me to address, and I'll address it either online or through regular Facebook Lives. And thank you very much for listening.